So good to have Alice Alvey joining us, Vice President and Partner Education. I like that word partner because that's how they view all of their people that work there as partners. I love that. Something that Bill Cosgrove came up with. She's responsible for all training there at Union Home and is here to give us the legislative update. Alice, good to have you here.
Thanks, Dave. So for my quick update, I've got a few things. VA published a circular regarding the funding fee exemption, and this is an oldie but a goodie. It's interesting to me that they have to keep saying this to people, but there's no excuses now. They have spelled it out in detail. When you're taking an application for a veteran, you need to take the time to find out if they are in the process of a claim that will make them exempt from the funding fee. There are too many LOs apparently out there, hence why we all got, when I see a circular like this, I think, okay, we're getting slapped on the hand of, we should have known this. And now they're telling us again, and they're putting it in print very clearly. Make sure you ask that question, because there's no such thing as I want to hurry up and close this loan, and then you go get your funding fee refund later, because the payment is set. Now the vet that's in the loan, their monthly payment is set with the funding fee rolled in. And we don't want to be overcharging our veterans. So folks, please take the time, make sure you understand the circular, make sure you're asking the question always. Don't just assume if the certificate of eligibility doesn't reference that their funding fee can be waived, that doesn't meet one of the criteria. You still need to ask that question in every single interview. Do you by chance have a claim pending for compensation that may make you exempt from having to pay the funding fee? Let's do that for our veterans. So I'm just making a shout out for that. HUD also published a mortgagee letter on accessory dwelling units. And just a reminder for everybody, that is a newer thing to be able to not only include it in a 203K loan, but also be able to include the rent for qualifying. USDA also had a handbook update, and two things I want to point out from USDA's handbook is that you really now have to take a look at housing payment check and NSFs. Those are two old school underwriting criteria that a lot of people just didn't pay attention to. With automated underwriting, we know those things don't get looked at. So we really just want to make sure that people are aware that's part of the qualifying criteria. Last but not least, Dave, is House Bill 5733. This was introduced. It's trying to get grant money for nonprofits who build housing units and other government entities. It would be for building 1 to 4 units. And you would think, Alice, why aren't you in favor of grant money for housing? I am all about, we have got to fix housing. But individual grant programs like this that just funnel money to a nonprofit is not the answer. There's a larger strategy that's needed. You need bigger solutions. This is just sending money to one group that will build one house at a time and not have a large impact. And so what we really need to do is really get the lending industry, rally behind Mark Jones, and really get some from the MBA and get some housing initiatives going that'll be meaningful, including send the money to FHA, make sure they have the programs they need, fixes that need to be done to their programs to make them more viable for programs that exist for everyone. I get it, we have a housing supply shortage, but one-off grant programs like this is not the solution. So that's more of a message to Congress folks who think if I propose a bill, it gets somewhere. Not something like that. It's not going to make a difference. So that's my 2 cents on housing, Dave. I'll send it
back
good.
That's really good, Alice. And I think I agree with you. I've heard more people comment on that piece of proposed legislation than anything else, Alice. And it's really interesting to me that we have some of the folks out there thinking that's a good idea. So great. I'm glad you raised that up. And again, it's legislation that is pending that we need to comment on. And do you know where the NBA is landing in on this, Alice, off the top of your head?
I don't. You know, when the bills are in these early stages, it's not really worth it for them to spend the time on it. It's literally just introduced in September. So until it starts to get to committee and gets formulated and they start to see what's going on, then it's worth their time and attention. But for me, it was just a chance to start putting the conversation on the table for our listeners.
Yep. Good. Excellent. Thank you, Alice. Appreciate it so much. I really appreciate that report, especially that particular topic. Very good.